Hello, Pulkit.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Good to see you.
How's
Good
it
morning.
going? Will Silver has risen up again.
I think everyone who doesn't have silver is already feeling poorer.
So I played for the Indian team for about 4 years.
India has a rugby team.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. She was passing through a jungle with her husband and they were attacked by bandits.
Okay.
She killed all of them, and while the husband was trying to
Save her jewelry.
save himself.
Save himself. Welcome. Come.
Hi.
Please join us. Hi. I'll make you meet my friends. Pulkit.
Hi, Pulkit.
Hi, Mona. I'm Pulkit. How are you?
Hi, Pranav.
Hello.
Meet Pulkit. Hi. And in all shows, you start by putting the founder in a spot. I'm going to start by putting you guys into the spot. Why should Pulkit raise money from you guys?
While our check sizes might be relatively small, I think the value we bring as operators is high.
Our brand is a silver jewelry brand. It's known as Unni Archa. Currently, we are ranked number 2 on Blinkit as far as the monthly run rates are concerned. Last year, as a brand, we clocked more revenue on Mahashivratri than Valentine's Day, and we were the only brand to do that. During the Ambani wedding, the daughter-in-law wore a Mangal Sutra on her hand.
Yeah.
It became viral.
Yes,
We launched
yes.
Mangal Sutra bracelets within 3 days.
How much are you raising?
About 6 crores.
And any commits so far?
Yeah, we got 3 commitments actually.
Would you mind disclosing?
Let's not do it on the show, but yeah.
Mona.
One last question.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Go ahead.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
All right, here we are. First episode, season 2. I'm going to be joined by the founder very soon. Great guy, whatever I've read about him, I'm going to meet him for the first time as well. From Jammu, interesting, very athletic guy. Comes from a rugby background and right now is doing something in jewelry. That too with his spouse. So seems to be quite a spicy way of running a venture and spouse, and especially for someone who's sort of all strong and mighty and then building things that are delicate and women friendly. So would love to sort of know him, and then very soon the VCs will also join us where we are, and this whole conversation will let's see where it leads to. It should sort of bring a silver lining for the founder is what we at Karnama hope, and that's where we're going to take it forward from. Yeah, there he is. I can see him. Hello, Pulkit.
Hey, Suraj,
Hi.
how are you?
Good to see you.
How's
Good
it
morning.
going? Good morning.
Very good. Very excited about episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah.
Starting with you.
Yeah.
How's your day started? How are you feeling?
All right. Will Silver has risen up again. Last night we spoke.
Silver is crazy.
Yeah.
It's just, I think everyone who doesn't have silver is already feeling poorer.
Yeah, that, I mean, it's so वो हो गया है कि ले लेते हैं,
ले लेते हैं,
गिरेगा,
right?
बढ़ेगा, ले लेते हैं. That's how the market is right now. Yeah. 4,10,000 in the morning. So. Yeah.
4,10,000 bucks silver. Unbelievable price rise that we're all seeing, and great time to be doing a startup around silver.
Yeah.
Although एक 3 Idiots वाला याद आता है सीन, राइट, जहाँ वो कहते हैं, राइट, कि पनीर भी सोने के भाव पे मिलेगा. तो अब ये सिल्वर भी सोने के भाव के आसपास हो गया, राइट? So it's getting harder for people to afford.
It is. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why silver becomes a nice alternative.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I somehow, whatever little jewelry I wear as a guy, at least for guys particularly, I don't know how big your catalog is, but I just feel silver is a great thing for guys as well in terms of what they can wear.
Correct.
Unlike gold that sort of glitters more.
That's true. So we do a lot of religious pendants and stuff, which
Okay.
moves really well for the men's category.
Okay.
So yeah, silver is a good option for men's jewelry as far as chains, bracelets, and religious stuffs.
But I'm sure the buying behavior is all the women and the spouses and the girlfriends who, is that what you see? Like
Yeah, typical customer
profiling? would
profile
be-
is women, yeah, and they only gift it to men mostly. Yes.
But tell me a little bit of your journey, right? Jammu and then rugby and someone from you coming from a family business.
Yeah.
How
so
did you end up at a startup? And again, I know I read a little bit that your wife is your co-founder.
Correct,
Or
yeah.
you are her co-founder. I don't know
I
how
am.
that.
Yeah, she started the brand.
She started the brand, right? So
Yeah.
she took the first leap of faith. So just give
Correct.
us a little bit about.
Yeah, so I was born in Kashmir, but shifted to Gurgaon in '92. And
Happy about it?
yeah, it's all right. It is what it is.
Gurgaon in 92 versus Gurgaon in
It was
25.
different,
Before we go ahead,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Different. It's a different world. The time we were here when we initially came, it was many more farms that you could see. 32nd milestone
Yes.
was the most happening place, and there were farms right across the highway, and the highway was like single lane.
And now we struggle to find green, right? Anywhere as we drive,
Absolutely.
you can like.
Absolutely, it was a different world that time. Yeah.
But sorry, I interjected. 92 in Gurgaon was where people like us were even afraid to come to Gurgaon.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I remember in 2005, cabs used to refuse to come, saying that it's
Absolutely.
unsafe. But today we are Millennium City and
Yeah.
the startup capital. I think most IPO listed startups are
Absolutely,
all Gurgaon.
absolutely.
So that's a
It's-
great sign. But yeah, come back to
Yeah,
from
so
92.
Yeah, so Divya, my founder, who happens to be my wife as well, she started the brand. The brand is called Unni Archa. It's named after a 17th century warlord from North Kerala. She
Okay.
was extremely beautiful, and was an expert in the martial arts skill of Kalaripayat.
Okay.
Used to wear a lot of jewelry. In fact, there's a story where she was passing through a jungle with her husband, and they were attacked by bandits.
Okay.
She killed all of them, and while the husband was trying to
Save a jewelry?
save
Okay.
himself.
Save himself. Okay.
So,
I thought
yeah.
men sometimes
Yeah, I know.
are more
That is
concerned
it.
of
That is
saving
it.
wealth and jewelry.
That
but
is well, yeah. So yeah, we named it after her.
How do you spell it again for everyone?
So the
What the
pronunciation is Unni Archa.
Unni Archa.
Yeah, UNNIYARCHA.
Very
Unni Archa,
interesting.
Yeah.
And did you think of simpler names? Like people nowadays want peppy 4-letter names. Like even when we name our kids, we want simpler names. So Unni Archa from a marketing. Is
Yeah.
it like recall value?
Yes, so there was a lot of discussion behind this. I mean, it was not an easy decision because the name is difficult, and
Yeah.
you know how people say you should have.
It has a nice vibe to it. It has that premiumness, rich, and like this warlord feel to it.
Correct,
so
yeah.
it sounds premium,
Yeah.
but whether it registers at first time is what.
Yeah, so
would feel.
that's always a concern, but we did a lot of SWOT analysis behind it, and there were more pros than cons in our opinion at that time, because
I
the
understand.
marketing structure that the name itself gives us is huge. So we just recently started an animation series around the figure.
Really?
Yeah.
You have content with your.
Correct, yeah. So it's called Chronicles of Unni Archa. For us,
Oh, amazing! Like.
yeah, we're trying to build content around the entire brand name, and look at it like how Amul has the Amul girl.
Okay.
We've created a character Unni Archa, and the animation series starts from a toddler stage till she becomes an adult, and basically telling her story to the world.
That's
And-
interesting. So
and
this is
we-
not going to be one of those cases when the kid grows up and the parents have a rethought on the name. You are like, because you already have content and this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we got a trademark.
You're
very
like
early
dead
on,
sure of your trademark.
Yeah, and
And you
it's-
think this would appeal to a global audience as well?
100%. I think the marketing horizon that we see through it is huge. There are a lot of things that can be done with it. We're not monetizing the animation series yet, but eventually we might look into it. Having said that, we are constantly looking at creating sub brands as well. I think our market positioning on different sections of jewelry has to be sub branded. Like we're trying to create a complete new sub brand for our religious aspect, which is about 18 to 20% of our top line right now.
Okay.
So there's a clear demarcation between brands.
Interesting.
But that's something that we've learned from all the big brands, like Tanishq has all.
Yeah, they
the-
all have
yeah,
wedding brands and religion brands.
Exactly.
and People
There's a-
then kind of develop some affinity to that
Correct.
sub-brand,
Correct. And
depending on their buying.
there's no misfit when a customer comes and sees, okay, I'm looking at a nice earring, and then suddenly I see a religious product, it doesn't match. We don't want that to happen to our customers. Yeah.
But do investors find you as misfit? Again, like rugby, well-built guy thinking about, jewelry weighing a few grams and the finer design seeing through microscope.
am
Is
not-
that
I'm
how
not
is that persona fitting it when you talk to investors?
I am not sure how they perceive it, but,
But
yeah.
you would have done several pitches. So what's the
yeah,
initial when they
multiple.
meet you? Do they feel you should have been in gaming or sports or with? You also represented our national rugby
Yeah,
federation,
yes.
right? So
yes, I played for the Indian team for about 4 years.
India has a rugby team.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, in fact, it's a growing sport in India. Almost 25 states play.
I think-
I now have retired for the Indian team. I play for the local club, Delhi Hurricanes, and we play out of Vasankunj. And yeah,
Delhi Hurricanes. I
Delhi.
should catch that up. I mean, there's so much of cricket and overdose of cricket that.
it's ranked number 1 in India as far as
Okay.
rugby in India is concerned. Yeah.
Okay, I think our friends are almost here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi,
Welcome. Come.
Hi.
Please join us. Hi. I'll make you meet my friends. Pulkit.
Of course.
Hi, Pulkit.
Hi, Mona. I'm Pulkit. How are you?
Very well. How have you been?
Not bad. How
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Hi, Pranav.
Hello.
Meet Pulkit. Hi.
Hey, Pranav. How are you?
Good.
You know,
How's it going?
Meet you.
Chetan had suggested that I get the VC to sit in front and the
Okay.
founder could be with one of the VC behind. But I said VC backs founders, right?
Oh.
So VC should be at the back, right?
That's a nice
Uh,
angle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in all shows, you start by putting the founder in a spot. I'm going to start by putting you guys into the spot. Why should Pulkit raise money from you guys? And give me a little bit of your intros as well, right? But Pulkit, let's start with there, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So
I'm
Pranav, we
happy
can
to
start
turn
with
it around.
you. Yeah, why should anyone and Pulkit, and what do you do? Like, just help us with that.
So we have this fund vehicle called Atrium Ventures. We invest in pre-seed, seed stage companies, looking to back founders across sectors. Consumer is a focus area. We have a fund vehicle called Consumer Collective by Atrium for that. And would love to know more about the brand Pulkit and his team are building.
Yeah.
In terms of why should he raise capital from us? Because while our check sizes might be relatively small, I think the value we bring as operators is high, and our advisors are also people who built large brands themselves, right? So they can guide you on the journey going forward. And we don't even call ourselves a VC fund. We are relatively small for it, and for us it's more about being part of the journey with the founder. But yeah, I think Mona can share her journey.
I think a lot is common between us because, again, as IEA, I don't know, Pulkit, how much you know about IEA, but we've been around for a while now. It's been almost 9 years, and we started as an accelerator because that's the DNA for the organization. But now, and there's Spaces, which is the physical hubs, and a multi-stage fund. So the whole idea for us is that from idea to IPO is where we try and support the entire journey for a founder. So there's an accelerator stage fund where we come in early with a smaller check size, then there is a seed stage, and then we also go right up to pre-IPO, where then of course the kind of intervention that we do in each stage varies. It differs. So the kind of operators, of course, operators would be common again between the two entities, but the kind of operators that we can bring in, experts from D2C space, people who've been there, built brands, and now trying to kind of give back, and that's why they're associated with us.
Yeah.
So idea, of course, along with capital, it's never a passive investment for us.
Yeah.
So along with capital, it's the active support through the stages is what we try and do.
Well, that's good to know. Amazing.
And we are at this great center of yours, right? We are picking you up from IA's office.
That is
Mona,
correct.
can you
this
tell
is
us?
our headquarters, in fact, Suraj.
Okay.
So this is where the entire core team of IA really sits.
All right. So unlike other things, no need to keep phones on mute here, but seat belts are mandatory.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
That's the only rule I'll enforce. And
Or we take this one light.
I would feel it's for your own safety. VC should be concerned about risk and safety.
That's true.
We play with risk, Suraj.
You guys play with risk, huh? I
But then
always
we work with the founders to de-risk the startup.
I always feel that a VC is like a farmer, right? Like a farmer also deals with risk. They sow seeds and don't know what the outcome is.
Yeah.
As angels or as VCs, you guys put money into something, but completely unknown of what the outcome. You also sometimes it's just praying like the farmer does that it's a great crop and you have a unicorn.
Correct, yeah, but I think the difference is we don't spray and pray.
Of course, there is science in
Yeah,
it.
there is science.
Logic.
I feel farming has also got scientific, so no offenses there to anyone.
Yeah.
But Pulkit, what's your
Yeah.
60-second elevator or ride pitch?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So our brand is a silver jewelry brand. It's known as Unni Archa. Unni Archa was named after a 16th century warrior from North Kerala. She was a warlord in the Malabar region, known for her extreme beauty and her great martial arts skills of Kalaripayattu. In fact, she fought against Tipu Sultan, and there are a lot of folklores behind her. So we wanted to name our brand behind something historical from India and something which represents both boldness and beauty, which what the current Indian modern woman is like, right? We specifically only deal in silver jewelry, which is of 92.5 purity. one of our biggest moats is operational moat of having our in-house manufacturing unit. So we completely control the entire movement of our supply chain. What that means is we just buy pure raw silver from the markets. After that, mixing of the product, casting, metal structuring, stone setting, plating, polishing, everything is done in-house.
That's interesting.
Yes, and one of the unique models that we created was a lean manufacturing and lean inventory model. So we currently churn our inventory almost 2.5 times a month. So we run on a very low inventory model back end. So our capital is never blocked on inventory, which is really showing colors right now because the silver is so erratic. We were at 3,80,000 last evening, and today in the morning at 4,10,000. So that's a jump of 30,000. 9 days the delta is gone 80,000 rupees. So it really helps us in keeping our costs low, but it also helps us to churn out designs much quicker. Our entire model is based on creating designs very fast and launching them very fast. So we are able to work on a trend and launch designs within 4 days. Whereas 4 days, yeah. So if you outsource that entire model, the timeline can take 20 to 30 days just for the samples to come in. And whenever we are making a collection, we just make the samples, put them out on the website, and don't keep any stock of the products. We keep them semi-ready at the back end, and whichever SKUs are selling more, we start building stocks for that. This way we ensure we're not putting too much capital in building stock. This worked fantastically well for us, and currently we're completely online. 45% of our sales come from our website. 40 to 45% come from quick commerce channels, mainly Blinkit. Currently we are ranked number 2 on Blinkit as far as the monthly run rates are concerned. It's a great channel
and
for us.
And is buying silver a 10-minute urge for people, or is it just convenient to, like, what's your...
Interestingly, yes, it is because the entire Blinkit model runs on events, right? Okay. So they have events for which they push their various products. It could be...
So Valentine's coming would be big for you?
It is. We have a open PO of a lot of... We were actually creating about 60,000 units within 25 days just for the Blinkit refurbishment. And these are new SKUs, so the quantum is a little higher. But yeah, interestingly, we work on the traditional spectrum of silver jewelry, whereas most of the brands are more into contemporary modern jewelry. And this really shows in our sales at channels like Blinkit. Blinkit is all about product market fit, right? It's something where you can't really have an algorithm running ads and your product sells more. It's very organic for us. We have a less than 7% marketing spend on the channel.
Sure. So let's keep this less about Blinkit and more about...
Yeah. So last year, as a brand, we sold more revenue. We clocked more revenue on Mahashivratri than Valentine's Day, and we were the only brand to do that. So we have really got a hold of the traditional aspect of the silver jewelry market. And
which is the channel you... Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You know, which is the channel you mentioned is working the best for you right now?
So on top line, our website gives us the maximum revenue, followed by quick commerce channels. And then 10% of the total revenue is through other marketplaces, which is Amazon, Myntra and Tata.
Yeah, because I did a bit of research on Myntra, so where I, very honestly, I didn't see it ranking very high in the overall brands.
Correct. So we don't spend any money on Myntra or Amazon currently. We just started working with agencies to bring our presence there, but honestly speaking, we've never focused on these channels because spending money on ads on these channels versus spending money on our website to gain the customer was something that we wanted to where we thought about it and we decided let's spend that money on our website and gain the customer instead of spending it on marketplaces.
So is that because you're able to retarget them better, or you see high repeat frequency, higher LTV coming from the same customer?
Correct. So month on month our repeat purchase is around 28% right now, and this was lying around 20% last year January. So within a year we've increased it by 8%. This is also because the number of customers have increased and we're just more in the business right now. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons that we do.
And what would someone typically start with when you're saying repeat? Like, what's a low risk buy from your?
A daily wear jewelry. So as I mentioned earlier also, that we focus mostly on traditional jewelry. So tourings and anklets is a huge category for us.
Okay.
Collectively it gives us about 40% of the top line.
Okay.
And traditionally in a lot of cultures in India, you're supposed to wear a touring or an anklet once you get married.
Okay.
So it's a purchase which a lot of women in India do.
Okay.
And back in the days when we started, they were all very bulky and old designs. What
Okay.
we did is we created minimal designs, keeping a price range of 990 to 2000. So our typical customer journey would be a customer buying something between this price range, and their next purchase is always of a higher order value, about 8000 or 9000.
What is the AOV?
On the website is 3000.
Okay.
Quick commerce is 1200, and then marketplaces are 2200.
But and before we talk deeper about the business, right? I think we jumped straight into it.
Yeah.
Wanted to understand why you are building this, and you have a co-founder. What's your journey?
Can you repeat? I couldn't hear.
He's your co-founder.
You have
What's
a
your journey?
co-founder, What's
Yeah.
the journey for you?
So
He's the co-founder.
I am actually the co-founder.
Okay.
My
Okay.
founder, who happens to be my life partner as well, she started the brand and she did her did her master's in mathematical finance from Columbia University, and then she came back to India to join her father's business. But she was always inclined towards designing, and she started this brand as a part-time thing, learning the trade. Started with fashion jewelry, buying a lot of stuff from Jaipur, from traders. She did a lot of exhibitions from Jammu till Kanyakumari actually. Did a lot of customer facing. She actually started a store in Bangalore in 2018. We were based out of Bangalore at that time. This was in Phoenix Market City, and it was becoming profitable, and then COVID hit. We had to unfortunately close the store, but our website was up and running, the current Shopify website. So 2020 is when she went completely online. I had started giving some support in the late 2019s, and 2021 I joined her completely, and I take care of the operation and the production. So the first challenge for us was to create the entire ecosystem of creating the products, and both of us were not from jewelry background. So I sat down with the karigars, learned everything. I basically can make anything from scratch now. And as and when we scaled and grew, we kept on adding more systems inside the production, and like a casting system was put in, then a plating unit was put in. I learned the entire process first, and then launched.
So how long have you been part of it full time? And
2021, September 2021, yes.
2018 to 2021, your wife was the co-founder.
Correct, yeah.
And it looks like a serious business, right? Not like a passion project to
Yes,
keep
yes,
sort of
absolutely.
sampling jewelry and all. I have friends and spouses who would. you
Yeah,
know.
so
It
I've
probably started like that, and then.
That's what I'm curious to know. Was it like a?
Yes, so Divya started like that. She was quite inspired by how, most of the jewelry which is sold abroad with the brands like the likes of Tiffany's or Winston's and whatnot, they're all made in India, a lot of them, but none of the Indian brands are like making big. So she wanted to incorporate that and create a brand and see how it goes. That was her passion project, right? And she actually applied for Parsons Schools of Design before starting this, and she got admitted, but then she decided, let me do it the hard way, become an entrepreneur.
A real life MBA.
Yeah. And that's how Unni Archa came into the picture, and it seemed to be very interesting for me when I was contemplating of joining, because at that particular time silver as an industry was still very nascent. It still is, but the likes of Jiva had just started in 2019. It was growing. There weren't many branded players, and silver as an industry is a age-old traditional industry, right? It's been there since hundreds of years. Very much similar to how gold was 35-40 years back, when there were no branded players, and when the likes of Tanishq, Malabar came into the picture, it somehow got organized and structured. we believe silver is going through that phase, and we are at the right space at the right time right now to encapsulate that. And yeah, that's where we are.
What's been sorry?
Go ahead. No,
What's
go
been your background, Pulkit?
Oh yeah, so I'm a computer science engineer. Never worked in computers. Started my career in automobile. I used to work for a Taiwanese firm. They were an OEM supplier of oilseeds. I was handling their business in India. And then after that, I joined my father's business, which is into consumer technology. They assemble LED projectors and touch screen panels. But mostly institutional. They work with governments and colleges or companies like that. During both these stints, I worked extensively in factories in China and Taiwan. I actually can speak a bit of Chinese.
Really?
Yeah, did a 6 months course in Taiwan, and then I stayed in a factory in China for about 8 months to learn.
Could have ended up doing something in semiconductor or...
Could have, but yeah. Yeah, but so that engineering and manufacturing has always been a keen interest. I follow lean manufacturing to the core, and that's something we've been trying to imply at Udni Archa. That's how it started.
But investors, do you like brand only companies, marketing, spending there, or this is a guy who's controlling supply chain, manufacturing, design? Like, how do you feel about something that is slightly more traditional? And also my sort of second question to either or both of you is, if I'm on the radio, we will have Sone ka rate, tol ke milta hai, and so much of gold and lab grown seems to be the thing, right? So is silver really, as I said, right? Is it silver or is it something more
So lab
meaningful?
grown is the point I had, but we'll come to it later. I'll let you answer first of how do you see the brand.
Yeah.
So when it comes to D2C, Suraj, brand is important, because that brand recall, because ultimately if you have to get customers, there has to be a brand recall for the customers. But supply chain, having that supply chain in-house is something that actually gives you healthy unit economics. It gives you healthy numbers and healthy business overall.
Correct.
But I think somewhere once the scale happens, the brand has to become bigger than not bigger than unit economics or numbers, but big in a way that there's customers which are coming back for the brand. So that is important in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of brands which have come up, right? You mentioned lab grown diamonds as well. There is different brands coming in gold vermilling as well. So those interesting activities are happening in modern day jewelry, but it is important to build a brand. So spending time, having a thesis around it or a story behind it is important as well. And of course, like Mona mentioned, right, I think if you can get your own supply chain control, it is helpful. Like Pulkit mentioned right now about the silver rates and how you need to control your inventory, and you can do that a lot more if it is not outsourced but in-house.
I understand.
Right, so I think those advantages, design turnaround advantages, is interesting, and his experience with, I think, the factory setups in China would have come handy to set this up.
For your second question, Surat, I happen to be a customer as well, or a target customer.
I know that.
Not a customer, but
but what is more desirable? I'm really saying is, from an affordability, given silver is becoming expensive.
Yeah.
Would you prefer something elegant in silver or a lab-grown diamond? And how does that play out, right? Given.
So if you ask me as a possible target customer, for me, lab-grown diamond of course has become a lot more attractive. But if you ask about personal choice, silver has always trumped gold for me. I've always liked silver more than gold, and especially when it comes to ethnic jewelry.
Okay.
So that's
and maybe gifting also, I suspect, right? Is that a big category, like people buying for themselves versus people buying today?
Yeah.
For gifting, is that?
So on the website, 25% of the orders are
gift wrapped.
Gift wrapped, yeah. So how we know is that has a separate SKU, gift wrapping. So it's very easy for us to figure it out. Blinkit or quick commerce for that matter, I think everything would be last minute purchase or a gift only. But yeah, marketplaces again is mostly for themselves and rather than gifting. But gifting plays a huge part, and it's something that we keenly look into. The entire collection designs are made in a way where we're keeping all of these things in mind, that okay, The collection is going to be of 30 designs. A few of them are going to go for quick commerce, few of them are going to go for a website, for a few of them are going to be occasional wear. So we design the entire collection like that.
I think two questions which I had. Right,
Yeah.
right now, what's your split across the country? Is it very heavy in South because your name is probably more culturally relevant there?
Yeah. No, so great question, but we have a healthy mix of clientele all over India. Our highest revenue generator is definitely Bangalore, but it's very close to Delhi NCR. On quick commerce channels, Delhi NCR is the number one revenue generator. And metros, of course, 60% of our total revenue comes from metros, but then 40% of them is also tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Jaipur, Lucknow, Bhubaneswar, Vizag, Visakhapatnam, these are good cities which generate good income for us.
Is that a strong focus area in terms of growth for you? Tier 2, tier
Yes.
3?
So currently, as Mona rightly mentioned, that our factory or our in-house capabilities will take us to a point. We are currently in the stage where we want to scale our brand. We've become EBITDA positive for this year, complete year, and we've figured out our back-end operations. What we are really focusing now is to really push our branding and branding efforts, and the current raise is going to get deployed towards that. And tier 2 or tier 3 cities, we have seen our clientele spending more money from these cities than metro cities. So the average order values from these cities are higher. They have more money to spend and lesser choice. So that's definitely a
What is
focus.
the Kerala connection? Just going back to the brand.
So my wife Divya, who's the founder, she's a Malayali. So
Okay.
Wow.
that's how it came.
Jammu and Malayali, huh? Great.
Kashmir and Malayali.
Kashmir.
Exactly like two states.
Pan-India.
2 states.
Oh, kosher, kosher.
Yeah, Anas Mara.
That's interesting.
How
But
do you know
every-
Kashmiri?
My best friend is a Kashmiri.
Oh, nice.
Pranav is also a Kashmiri, right? Pranav?
No, no,
Pranav's
married
like-
to one.
Married to one.
Converted partly. Mom will not be happy.
Yeah.
But
What-
people are comfortable buying online, like jewelry. I would be feeling that, especially this tier 2, there is very look and feel, finishing.
Yeah,
you
so
know,
tier 2
it's-
definitely this is a challenge to overcome and look and feel, especially when the AOV increases.
Yeah.
I think we're at a very healthy mix of AOVs on our website. 3,000 something is very comfortable for customers.
Okay.
And typically their first order value is in the range of 1,500, which is a very impulse buy. Once they feel the product, see the brand's quality, that's
Yeah.
when they go towards higher purchases.
Are you
But-
planning to go to a physical format?
Yeah.
Yes, next financial
Like a
year.
store in store, or you will have
Yes.
your exclusive.
So we are open
Sure.
for both, but we eventually want to move towards a franchisee model. But to reach there, I think we need to have our own stores as pilot projects, which is basically a showcase for our investors to see how the entire model works.
Okay.
We intend to open about 8 to 10 stores next financial year.
8 to 10 stores. And
Correct.
Pan India.
Not pan India, we won't be using that strategy. We want to be omni-channel. Currently, we've already started doing same-day delivery in Delhi.
Okay.
But this happens through a third-party warehouse.
Okay.
But once we have enough stores in a particular city, we can do this through these stores instead of storing our products in a third-party warehouse. So it would be 2 or 3 cities in India for the first year.
Sure.
Most probably and most definitely Bangalore and Delhi, and then we'll see which is the third city. Yeah.
What is the typical profile of your TG? Any specific age group?
Yeah, so the brand ideology for us is to target a customer from 26 years and ahead. Our typical TG would be 27 to 35, working woman. That's a typical TG. But we also do everything in silver. So that means your traditional aspect, your occasional wear, but we do a lot of religious things as well. Religious articles like Lakshmi feet or Ganesha idol. So we want to target a customer and go through their entire his entire silver buying journey, right? So if a customer buys her first product at the age of 27, then she needs to give something to her friend, then she gets married, she needs to buy something for her feet or her toes, and then so on and so forth. We want to be a part of their entire journey.
How many SKUs do you have?
Currently 1200.
I'm curious, we've been
1200?
talking a lot. Is there something we can see? Is there
Yeah.
something?
Actually, whenever we evaluate a D2C
Yes.
company, they generally get something.
Yeah.
Depends. Nowadays, I've seen a lot of health drinks which they sometimes give, and it is like But
I mean, I don't mind the giveaways.
Yeah, so we have 1200 SKUs, but
But that's a lot.
yes, but we only keep stock for 200.
Okay.
Everything else is kept semi-ready or made on order.
Which are
And
the
we
highest selling SKUs?
in terms of categories.
Categories.
Yeah, so on our website, earrings is our highest revenue generator, whereas on quick commerce channels is rings and anklets. We totally dominate that space.
I'll let you actually, maybe this is a good time we swap and you want to
Sure.
show it to Mona in person. Pranav,
Yeah, I
you
can
want
do
to
that.
come in front?
Yeah.
We can
But I will
make-
take him up on a question. He mentioned his for the first time. So I
Yes.
want to understand what's the male buying happening.
We'll just take this quick.
Mangalsutra bracelet. So we actually had this, if you remember, during Ambani wedding.
You wanna have a look?
During the Ambani wedding, the daughter-in-law wore a Mangalsutra on her
Yeah,
hand.
correct.
Yeah.
It became viral.
Yes,
We launched
yes.
Mangalsutra bracelets within 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's been like hot selling?
It's been hot selling right now. It's I think the top third SKU is a Mangalsutra bracelet right now.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And what are the stone? What's the stone in this?
These are zircons.
So,
So we do a lot of zircons. We do a lot of kundan.
so Pulkit, are you building like, a premium brand, like just like how DLF is premium to Gurgaon? Are you building a DLF plus brand where you're saying the bigger brands, the established brand, the legacy brands can be there, but you are the challenger brand and the more sort of affordable brand? What's your positioning?
No, so we want to be premium for sure. More towards mass premium, if
Okay.
I may say it. The idea for us is to create a brand which is catering all sort of silver needs. Something like Tanishq of silver, right? That's what we ideally want to create. A brand which is known for silver jewelry.
Very
Who's your
interesting.
competition? Who do you consider as competition? I think there are quite a few.
There are a lot of players actually now. Like Chiva is obviously the market leader as far as silver is concerned. But then if you're just competing on say design and not typically silver jewelry, but Palmona is also doing
Yeah.
really well. The Shaya, which is a sub brand of Carrot Lane, is also there. And then the Instagram sellers and your retail local retailers are there in abundance. I think we are very design led and more towards the traditional bit of the spectrum, which is really working for us because most of the brands are not focusing on that side. Also, us being very lean and robust in as far as inventory or design collections launches is concerned is very good for us. It really works for us.
It's okay if I unpack this?
Of course.
Sure. It's interesting you have men's silver, which was my question.
Yeah.
What are men buying?
What are men buying? I'm curious.
Yeah.
I think men have this desire to buy jewelry, but they don't have any options, right? They just feel shortchanged. And I think their wives or their partners don't leave them enough budgets for them as well. Yeah, they'll buy silver ETFs, they'll buy silver stocks, they'll buy silver mining companies. Is that a big bias? Like men prefer
Have you
owning
seen the
an
gender
Depends.
split at your end? Yeah.
So
I think it's very individual driven. If I see right now, there are quite a few who are getting into it.
it is. We're seeing much more purchases as far as men is concerned. Men's jewelry typically, not just men buying, because men could be buying for
Yeah.
Correct.
their
house.
spouses or their
Yeah.
loved ones. But yeah, we're seeing an increasing purchases as far as men's jewelry is concerned. There are a lot of brands which are doing it specifically for men. Different sections, the religious aspect is there, the fashion aspect is there as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a category which is really working.
What's been the fundraising journey, Pulkit? Have you raised funds so far?
We completely bootstrapped. This is the first round.
Okay.
Everything has come from us only, and and we wanted to come to a stage where we are healthy on the bottom line. We achieved this last financial year, and then since then we've been growing. And our back end on operation is quite set, and that's how when we start pitching. So we are currently under our first round.
How much are you raising?
About 6 crores.
And any commits so far?
Yeah, we got 3 commitments actually.
Would you mind disclosing?
Let's not do it on the show, but yeah,
Okay.
we can talk
We can
about
talk
it.
about that.
We need to make the two more with both of you. I think as we go back, and we can sit further and maybe
Yeah.
take this
Absolutely.
further. But that's the idea, that you learn more about the founder and his brand, and maybe next time we have your spouse as well. If you get funding, we should do like a closing
Yeah, that'll be great.
episode with that,
Why not?
and we get goodie bags again.
I was about to just add that in as well. I was just opening the box and I saw you've mentioned the artisan who's worked on that particular piece as
Correct,
well.
yeah.
Is that for every product you're putting out
Every
there?
product, even the white cloth bag that you see.
Yes.
So about as far as the production team is concerned,
Right.
about 30% of our workforce is women, and we outsource this cloth making to them itself. So we just buy the raw material, and it's like an extra income for them. So when they go back home, they do the stitching of the cloth bag.
And you
sort
have
of-
all the manufacturing in Manesar itself.
Manesar, yeah.
Okay. And have you tied up with an ITI for this, or is these traditional artisans?
No, so it started. It's a very interesting story. So, majority of the artisans in India, as far as jewelry is concerned, are Bengalis.
Okay.
So when-
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and you go anywhere, any of the silver
Essentially from
jewelry.
Bangladesh?
No.
No?
Proper
Bengal,
Bengali.
Oh,
proper
Bengal.
Bengal.
Okay.
I think fine work, right? It's,
Yeah.
Very fine work, and if you go to Bangalore or you go to Chennai, the karigars there most probably are going to be Bengalis. So we had a few when we were in Bangalore, when Divya had a store. She had 3 karigars with her, and then she wanted to scale it. So these guys only started getting their friends or known people, and we slowly started building the team. But very quickly we realized that this is a supply chain issue, right? You don't get karigars when you need them. So what we started doing was we started hiring new labor, fresh off the board, like no skills at all in jewelry. And these are typically local laborers from UP, Bihar. They've come for a daily wage job or high intensity labor work. We started training them, and we started realizing that we're actually getting good, decent people who start doing some sort of jewelry making within 4 to 5 months. Right, and it became a great model for us. Currently, we have a very healthy mix of about 30% Bengali karigars and 30% women, and 30 are just locally sourced. So
Very nice.
slowly we started building that.
I mean, that's a
And-
big impact also, right, of the business.
Absolutely. I
What
mean,
is the
this is
total number of artisans engaged with you actively?
sorry, did you say
The
What is the
number of-
total number of artisans engaged
55
with you?
right now.
Okay.
We have a team of 55. Currently, we are really working on automation. A lot of machinery is getting evaluated and purchased for faster production.
Sure.
But yeah, jewelry is something which needs a final human touch for sure. It can't be completely automated.
How much do they get paid for this?
So when they
What is the percentage that goes to the artisans for
so they are on fixed salary. We are not giving on.
it's fixed salary.
Yeah, it's not like gold where you get a wastage as a
Okay.
reimbursement. So these are fully employed with us. They are under ESI, PFO scheme. Yeah. Complete contract basically. So the fresh one comes on the minimum wage salary worker, and typically our karigars on an average make about 30 grand.
Okay. That's
Where does
interesting.
this 6 year take you?
Yeah. So the next financial year we want to aim 50 crores.
So this will hold you good for a year?
Yeah.
I
And
thought you were asking me, it would take me to a party, but coming back.
Yeah. US.
so and then you raise the next round. This is at what valuation could be?
48 pre-money.
48.
Bit undervalued.
With
A founder always feel that, right? You would always feel your venture
because
is...
FY26 you mentioned you're closing on 12,
20.
20.
Currently at a MRR of 2. By March we'll be around 2.5.
Very interesting. So that's good, steady, solid growth, right? And especially these channels that you've managed to crack aren't the easiest one to get people to your own website and to stay in number one,
Correct,
number
yeah.
two on Blinkit. But any sort of expensive mistakes, any shortcuts, you just took a shortcut, anything in life that you've taken a shortcut and realized that it was not worth it, expensive, any designs that you feel like copying or being inspired of, if I may say, and someone came after you. Is there any learning, like for other founders, right?
There are multiple, not one.
What would be the top two sort of?
I mean, for us, because we are so lean at the back end, buying silver is always a... So we buy silver at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
That's
So you
how the
average
process-
your price over there.
So we are always contemplating, should I buy it right now? It might drop tomorrow, right? And often it happens when you buy it and it becomes the next day it drops down. But then you make some, you win some, you lose some, and as far as this is concerned. But yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of things that we've tried doing back in the days which did not work for us at all. We tried to do a lot of contemporary stuff very early on, something similar to what Jiva or the likes of Jiva does. But we realized that's not our target audience. They don't see our brand into that particular sort of design structure. So we quickly removed that entire design strategy and focused on what our core production and design capabilities are. And since then it's been working really fine for us.
What's the biggest challenge that you guys are facing right now?
Currently it's the silver prices for sure, because it's just not stopping. It's like someone has opened a tap and it's just going, right?
Yeah, but that's something.
But
which
is that
out
also
of
accelerating purchases? People are saying, let's buy today, it might get expensive. Is that like, is there a demand effect to it?
No, so we have not seen any sort of demand effect, because we've not really increased the prices multifold either. But we've not seen a demand issue at all. I think because most of the silver jewelry is not sold on grammage, it's a fixed price. So it's the perception value of a customer on a particular design. Hey, this product is nice. Is it worth this much? They're not going into the calculation of how much weight of that product is.
So yeah, so people buying it as a jewelry, or people are buying it as a
Investment.
metal and investment?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting question. Most of the brands are at least selling it as a piece of jewelry. For us, we see a lot of our customers who have experience of buying gold. So their typical journey or experience has been that when they buy something in gold, they always talk about the buyback value of it.
Yeah.
So we were actually the first silver jewelry brand online to offer a buyback policy. So we gave 50% of the purchased amount back to their wallet, which they can utilize for their next purchase on the website. Why we could do this is because of our in-house manufacturing. We can always take that product back. Typically we spend anywhere 35 to 40% to get a new customer. So that 50% of additional cost is more like retention for us, and we bind that customer with us, and we can always reuse that product. Worst case scenario, melt it and use the silver. And this was one of the most frequently asked questions initially on the website. So that's how we came up with this policy, and it really worked for us. And like gold, less than 1% customers actually go
So,
and exchange their product.
It's just comforting to
It is,
know
right,
that.
What percentage of your sales would be ornamental? For example, my mother is a big collector of silver handicrafts and products which you can put on display within a house. Is that a segment you've touched or not touched yet?
We have touched it, but it's probably less than 10%. Because we've not really focused. That's a different sort of selling, and with the rising prices of silver, it becomes more difficult to sell it online because the order value of that particular product increases. But interestingly, we launched a product on our quick commerce channels, which is a Lakshmi Charan.
Sure.
We were selling it at a 990 rupees product. This basically are 2 Lakshmi feet left and right, and it's very easily available in the market.
Yeah.
But we created a value addition to it. We put it on a nice wooden block with a swastik printed around the wooden block.
So like the entire.
So the entire value of the perceived value
Yes.
increases. Like now
Yes.
it's not just the weight
Yeah.
of the product. This was priced at 990 and we had a 85% stock sale on Dhanteras on quick commerce channels for this particular product. So it really worked for us. In fact, we had a higher stock sale through ratio more than silver coins on Dhanteras for this particular product.
Do you have returns?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
What's the percentage of returns?
yeah. So typically on a month-on-month basis, we see a 10% return, out of which 6 to 7% are RTOs on COD orders, and then 4 to 5% are where customer didn't like the product, there was some quality issue, or just didn't want it anymore. We have a 7-day return policy on the website.
Okay.
As far as quick commerce is concerned, no returns there. The returns is only for stock which is unsold, if it happens.
And what did you say your inventory turnout was?
2.5 times a month. So we churn our inventory 2.5 times. So for a MRR of 2 crores, we have a finished good inventory of 45 lakhs.
Interesting.
And what are your interests beyond work? I was just checking your LinkedIn. I realized you're big into sports.
Yes, I played rugby for the Indian team back in the days, and I still play it. I play for my local club.
Okay.
It's called Delhi Hurricanes, and besides that, I play football, and I'm highly into sports. I like watching football, playing football. A big Liverpool supporter.
How did rugby happen? That's not very common.
Yeah, very interesting. A friend of mine used to play. He was my classmate from college. He made me join the club, which I still play for. He left playing and I continued. And one thing led to another. I got called from the Indian camp, and I played for 4 years, and then had a couple of surgeries, and then decided, okay, it's time to retire from the Indian team. And
But what lessons from rugby are, like compared to any other founder, you've been in a lot of stress, a lot of teamwork, a lot of discipline, right? It's
Yes.
Sport looks easy, but when you're in the field, it's a different ball game.
it is. I think.
What helps you in as a startup founder and what you learned on the field?
I mean, it's just not for my startup, but for life in general. Great learnings from my stint there. I think one of the reasons, one of the things that I learned was most of the things that I've heard from founders, they talk a lot about motivation.
Yeah.
Whereas high performance sports or things like army work on consistency.
Yeah.
That is something that I learned automatically from there. You can't be motivated every day to create something big or create something beautiful, but consistency is where you become a champion at, right? So that's what I learned from it for sure.
I think sports generally teaches you life lessons very effectively.
Yeah, no, consistency is very valuable in the business itself, and it's
Yeah.
reflecting.
Correct.
Yes.
And you are a husband-wife duo as founders. So do domestic fights translate to issues at work?
Or better
not-
decisions.
So I very candidly say that I have the same boss at home and at office, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing to maneuver, but I think over the years we've finally figured out how to do it. Also, it's very clear our roles in the organization. She handles the marketing, the front end of the website, and all things fancy, whereas I do the dirty work of operations and the production. So we don't really mingle into each other's work. But yeah, having said that, there are arguments left, right, and center for almost a lot of things. But
I can imagine she gets a campaign ready, and if your supply chain is not tied in,
yeah,
it's
so
a tough one.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's mostly when they're trying to chase the trend,
Yeah.
because they need the design today, right? And it's almost impossible to make the design the same day. But yeah, it's a constant challenge. There's always a fight that the production needs to be more, and we try our best.
If you would actually have a brand ambassador for the company, who would be your top 3 preferences?
Oh, interesting.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, so it's a ongoing conversation. There are a lot of names, but we would want somebody who is known pretty well in South and North both.
Okay.
Somebody like a Rashmika or could be a couple also. We saw a very interesting angle. I don't know if you saw the ad of a gold jewelry brand with Mohanlal, where
Okay.
Mohanlal was wearing women's jewelry and dancing in Bharatanatyam. So that's another interesting angle. But yeah, we would want somebody who's known well both in South
Both in South and,
and
the
in
North.
North. Yeah.
Got it. No?
I think
We'll figure who
Yeah.
lands up as your brand ambassador soon. What do you think?
I was saying just like, I was born brought up in Bombay, and in Bombay people always say you see film stars around. In Delhi, people say you see netas around. We're just coming back to the India Accelerator thing, and I saw
Anita here, Suraj.
I saw startup founders around. So I'm saying Gurgaon to me is now becoming that, you see a lot of successful founders at Quorum, at India Accelerator. We just saw one of your portfolio companies, right? Idea Buzz, the founder. He's raised maximum money on a show.
Yeah, that was on national television.
On a
that's been the
television, yeah.
maximum.
So I think
that's not
Gurgaon
the
is
only amount
becoming...
that he's raised, but yeah,
Yes.
on national television, that's the maximum.
Yes, so that's kind of, the new Gurgaon for all of us, where we are spotting founders and opportunities all over, and the next big one is right here at the Karnama.
No, it's a solid
Absolutely,
cosmopolitan couple. We keep referring to Bombay as cosmopolitan. I think Gurgaon is proving to be an example of that.
All right, we'll just maybe close up inside the
Yes.
India Accelerator. Mona?
One last question.
Yes.
please.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Go ahead.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? I think one of the things that we seriously have discussion about is having a healthy mix of our sales channels. We don't want to get over dependent on quick commerce or marketplaces, because they really scale very quickly, right?
Yeah.
But for our brand to sustain and to have a name, we don't want to be another seller on a marketplace. We want to create a brand which is known for its quality, high silver quality jewelry, right? So that is something that we really want to focus this coming year, and that's why the raise has started, to create that brand awareness and trust in the customer. That's where the push is going to be towards.
Nothing could go wrong. There's a rugby player coming. I think competition beware. He's just going to go through and make it big, and all our best
Nothing
wishes
like
with you for that.